This is Derek Jones, and you're listening to The Break It Down Show.
And now, The Break It Down Show with John and Pete.
With us today at Mountain View Studios, we have the privilege of something that not only makes my heart warm because our guest is Derek Jones.
Oh, thanks, man.
But because we're capturing you just off the heels of finishing recording your first solo album.
Yeah, last night we wrapped it up. Yeah.
What an amazing time.
It really was.
I'm really just happy to be in your presence at this point in your career.
Oh, thank you. Well, man, yeah, it's always great to be here with you guys.
I have been lucky enough to meander around you at several different points in your career, and this one is just a monumentous occasion because you've waited this long.
That's what Cookie Marenko, who produced it, and it's her record label. It's coming out on Blue Coast Records, which Cookie started this record label back in 2008 for audiophiles. So everything's recorded in 196K, really high res. So you can't really play it on your computer unless you have a certain kind of DAC, that digital auto converter that can convert this high level. Yeah, these high, like hundreds of gigs of data that come in. You know?
Right, the density.
I think
of that
one
recording.
song could be. I think one song can be 10 gigs. You know, and if you buy it
By
at the
contrast,
highest,
if you, let's say, download an MP3, you're typically downloading a file that is 2.5 megs.
yeah, depending on the quality, yeah, like you can go down and on Cookie's site, if you want to listen to the whole album, you can listen to it on a website for free, the whole thing, as at the lowest, like 68 megs or something like that. It's the lowest MP3 rate.
Yeah.
And all her records on that site can be listened to like that.
So they're all available.
They're all available to listen to for free at the lowest download. And then
Right.
if you want like a WAV file, that's like $15 for the album, just
Yeah.
like a regular. And if you want it as an iTunes, like a MP4,
Yeah.
it's $9.99. Like, and then you can go up from there up to like $35, $40 for an album. And when she started the label, everyone, people in the industry thought she was nuts because who's going to spend $35, $40 on a full album? That
On a recording.
Yeah, no one's going to do that. But
And it turns out,
there's a lot of audio for it. She has about 60,000 subscribers now. And a lot of these people live in areas that are kind of remote where either they can't get to a venue to see a live concert or they just want to have the experience of being in the studio in their home. Mm-hmm. And so Cookie records in a way where there's no overdubs. Everything's played live. There's no fixing. Whatever happens, happens. And we talked about this. We've been talking about this for a few years now, maybe even longer. And for some reason, last time we talked about it before we got released, I decided I wanted to do it, was our mutual friend Andre Bush, who had passed away. We did I think I was here the last time.
yeah,
When we did the memorial concert for him. And we were
At
talking.
Freight and Salvage.
At Freight and Salvage, yeah. And she mentioned it again. But this year, I just all of a sudden kind of thought, if I don't do it, what's going to happen? You know, but if you do it, a lot of things could happen. Of course, positive or negative. But you just don't know. I mean, but if you do nothing, nothing happens, right?
That's
so
true.
I called her up about 2.5 months ago, and I said, "Hey, I've got a dark coming up in September from the Ka show. Do you have any time available?" And she says, "Yeah, I can set that up. We'll save it." And so I started thinking about people I wanted to work with. And, of course, Paul Hansen came to mind right away. And most of the people, John Arbor on piano, a lot of people were here in town. But one person I thought of was Jeff Coffin, who's the saxophone player with Dave Matthews Band and was in the Flecktones. And I was in his band when I lived in Nashville for about 4 years and played on a couple of records with him. We played a lot together. And I hadn't really talked to him in years. I mean, last time we hung out, he was in Las Vegas with the Dave Matthews Band. And we got to hang out, and it was really, really a beautiful time. We always have a great time hanging out together. And so I called him, and I said, "Are you anywhere near the San Francisco Bay Area the first week in September, like the 5th through the 9th or something like that, 10th or whatever?" He goes, "Yeah, man, I'm up at the Grove in Washington on the 5th. That's the last show of the tour with Dave Matthews. And if you want, I can fly down, and we can record on the 6th.
that is incredibly
Yeah.
serendipitous
Right.
timing.
So I went, let me call Cookie And she said, "Oh, I can move it up. Let's start on the 6th." And I said, "Well, you know what? She usually starts her sessions about 2 p.m. I said, "We're going to have to start at 9 because Jeff's going to fly down, and then he's got to be at the airport by 12:30 to fly back to Nashville at 2:30 because his wife's brother and his wife were visiting from Japan." And they were on tour with Dave Matthews, so he wanted to hang time with them. But he took time out of his schedule to fly down. So that was the linchpin where it was like, we can do this. She said, "Yeah, I can do a 9 o'clock. We'll make it happen."
Wow.
And then I called Paul Hansen. "Yeah, I'm available on that day." John Arbor. "Yeah, I'm totally available." And Cookie said, "I want to use Jenna Mamina." And I was like, "Great, but I know she lives in Michigan now, and we'll check her schedule." Okay, she's available. So I flew her down. And then she says, "Well, what if we use Brain to play percussion?" And I was like, "That would be great, but he's in L.A. Would he want to come?" She says, "Well, I'll work it out because I work with him a lot, and I'll talk to him and see if I can work out a deal." And he was like way into it. So within 4 days.
This is terrific.
Yeah, within 4 days, it was all done. And then I went, wow, well, at least I have 5 months to prepare. And then I looked at the calendar, and I had 2 months to prepare.
Uh-oh.
So I kind of went, oh, I'm in this now. So now I have to pick the songs and figure out arrangements and send them to everybody.
Let's back up just for 1 second, because
Sure.
before we get to this process, I want to just inform our listeners who maybe haven't been with us since, I don't know, episode 4 when you joined
Right,
us.
the UNLV episode. Right, yeah.
We have released 105 episodes since then.
Yeah.
So to catch our listeners up, Derek Jones is the bass player in Ka, which is the Cirque du Soleil show that is at the MGM Grand Hotel in Las Vegas. The show, for those of you who are unfamiliar, is enormous. It's massive. I don't know how else to describe it besides it's a feast for every sense. And you've been with the show nearly since the beginning. So it's been
Almost 12 years now.
Wow.
Yeah. We did 5,559 was the last show I did.
Jesus.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah, I was like, wow, 5,000. What? And I've probably missed maybe 30 of those shows.
Well,
Maybe
that's
40.
that's quite a batting average.
Yeah, not bad. Just I got sick a couple of times, and maybe I had to sub out a few things here and there. But my wife and I were kind of it was probably around 30 to 40 I've missed out of those 5,500 and some shows.
And for our listeners, that 30 to 40, you guys do 2 shows a night.
Right, we do 470 shows a year.
So that 30 shows might be 15 days off in a 12-year period.
Yeah, probably something like that.
Yeah.
Now, we do get 2 days off. I mean, we do 5 days a week, so we
Right.
still get time off. But yeah, that was maybe time off I took off during the show, either for maybe I got sick or I went on the road for a minute, or something else came up. So.
Right. But the point I make is that you've been at that show. You've been a cornerstone of that show. The composition, the bass parts are really your creativity coming through in that show, and that it has been such for practically the entirety of the run.
Yeah, it's pretty much when I first got there, the composer said, I love how you play. He kind of saw my audition DVD and said, I want you to just come up with ideas and I'll come back and check them out. And so I just came up with ideas, and
over the course of time,
they've evolved and just kept growing.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not that you haven't been busy, it's that you have now chosen this time in your life to express making your first solo album, and the pieces fell into place. It sounds like almost magically.
Well, I think when you decide to move in a direction, energy moves in that direction too. Mm-hmm. And this has kind of been a cathartic experience for me because of in the past 4 to 5 years, there's been a lot of changes, with me in my philosophical views, my religious or now not religious views. And so it's almost like going through the 7 stages of grief when you decide that something you believed in is not something you believe anymore, in a faith or looking at yourself. A lot of things changed. And so I've gone through a lot of things with the help of my lovely wife and family and dear friends that have kind of over the years helped me come through this, because it is almost like the rug's been pulled out from under you, and then you think you stand on the rock of truth, or however you want to talk about it, and then you realize, no, it's not that, and Now what? Now what? So, and a lot of the programming I had in my mind about how I thought about myself was just very negative and probably not healthy. And as I started this process, I started trying to recognize that, and then to start reprogramming, or just going, whenever I had a negative thought, I'd go, no, that's not true, because this person's loves you, and this person loves you, and they see you, and if you don't see that, which really it comes to acceptance. And a friend of mine, a dear friend of mine, Mark Owen, who's the keyboard 2 player on the show, once said to me, as we have these great talks, and he said, well, your issue right now, man, is you don't accept the fact of who you are. You don't accept the fact that people love you. Mm-hmm. And that's what's stopping you, is that you haven't accepted the hard work you've done. And all these things, and I really took that to heart. And this process of this album, and having the people that were on it, the people that I love and respect. Cookie, I've done probably 10, 12 albums with over the years. I think some of my first studio experiences were in her studio.
Wow.
So coming back to that studio and looking at it, and the smells and the sounds, and wow, I remember this record. Oh, I remember this record we did here, and how, sometimes I was really nervous or intimidated by who I was playing with at the time, and all these different experiences that you grow up with.
Yeah.
And then being here now, and it's my project.
Right.
Although it's really our project, because, Cookie, what she'll do with it now it's her album. Mm-hmm. Because this was the deal. She said, look, when you record on my label, you record the music.
Yeah.
And then it's mine.
Yeah.
And I know what my clients are looking for. They're looking for mistakes. They're looking for little things. They're looking for the edge. They're looking for, case in point, one of the songs I wanted to do was David Sylvian's Riverman, which is off of the Gone to Earth album, came out in '87. And that was, for me, an album that really influenced me greatly. David Sylvian was a big influence. Japan was a big influence.
Yeah.
Nick Carn and all that stuff, So I'd sent the MP3 out to everybody, and I didn't have a chart, but I did. It's only 2 chords. There's only 2 notes in the bass line, C sharp and B, throughout the entire thing, and it just goes doom 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 over and over and over again. And for me, I thought it was Danny Thompson playing the bass part, and I just thought that was the most genius bass line. I know, just the simplicity of it, and the almost. It was just like a trance-like thing where it just, goes. And then you have Robert Fripp doing all these sounds, and Mark Isham and Steve Jansen playing drums. And it's this really produced thing. But I wanted to see if we could break it down to just percussion, upright bass, voice, and piano. So when...
Really make it sparse. Because
just change it. Because you don't want to do what's already been done.
Right.
I mean, it's such an iconic thing. For me, it's something I almost like, do I want to touch this? Do I want to... But then I thought, well, with Jenna singing it, and Brain there playing percussion, and John R. playing piano, I thought, oh, this could be cool. And Cookie listened to it. She says, well, man, when I first heard it, I was like, how are we going to do this? It's very produced. But then she came up with some really cool ideas. Mm-hmm. But
now, how repetitive
it's the same.
Did you stayed with?
I stayed with it.
The repetition of the
because
part.
What I wanted to have is the bass be the cornerstone, if you will, and let the percussion, piano, and voice just
play off
where they go.
Yeah.
Listen to each other. But that was always going to be there as the solid foundation for the whole thing, which is kind of, I guess, what I've been thinking about myself, and being a solid foundation for people.
Yeah.
For my own self, too, being happy with who I am and building a foundation of my own self, and my family and the friendships that I have, and start really being there, I mean, I guess it's, metaphors may be slipping out of my mind here, but I just wanted that to happen because that bass line is the song to me.
Yeah.
So, and it turned out, but the interesting thing was, and this is what we were talking about, being on the edge and catching moments of magic in the studio. Jenna gets to the studio, and they start talking about Riverman, and Cookie goes, yeah, that Riverman tune's really going to be it. We'll see what happens, the David Sylvian tune. And Jenna goes, who's David Sylvian? And Cookie says, the guy who sings on Riverman.
This might be a long day.
Yeah, and Jenna goes, well, I've been listening to the Nick Drake Riverman.
Wow.
Huh. Wait, what?
This might be good.
And so part of me
was terrified.
Went, it wasn't no big deal. I mean, everything was really, it's really Cookie. I trust Cookie. I trust her.
Yeah.
That's why I said when, she said she's had some artists who have recorded for her label, and then they wanted to fix some things, and she said no.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't let her put the album out. And she says, I have some albums that are just so amazing, but because of like a little funky note here or a little rhythm thing here, the artist won't let me put it out. So I said, look, here's our deal. We finish this record. It's yours.
Yeah.
And it's
You trusted the process.
Yeah, because I could have CDs burned and do it myself.
Yeah.
But I don't have time to go out on the road and promote a CD, and it's really not how things work anymore. You know,
Right.
most people just either listen for whatever they download, so I said, it's yours, and you can and you sell it, and it was basically a whole concept of writing an album for her clientele, or coming up with an album.
All right, I have a dozen statements and a dozen questions. The first statement is that you and Cookie have gone back a long, long way.
Yes.
And you decided to trust the process.
Yeah, it's
because
really
there is something magical and there is something loving about the care that you give it and then you hand it off. Because she's now got custody of it. She's not going to betray the spirit of the record and she's only going to put it in a place that I think maybe an artist, if they trust the process, gets to go further than they could have gone. Because she gets to take it and say, now, we're going to put it where our audience will see it in a light that you probably didn't imagine.
There's a artist on the show, Marc Antoine, who on Ka that plays the counselor's son. Wonderful artist, actor, and he said something that I thought was very beautiful about that. He says, once we perform, it's not ours anymore.
Yeah.
Once we've made the sound or made the movement or made the facial expression to direct the energy to where it needs to go so the audience can feel where the show's going or hear where the show's going.
And now it
we don't
belongs
own
to
it
the
anymore.
audience.
It's not ours.
Yeah.
It's a moment in time that we let out, and then now it's owned by everyone. So the album concept with Cookie was the same thing for me. As long as it feels, I said I want to make an album that people enjoy and not necessarily admire, because you can do an album where, wow, here's my chops.
Yeah.
And you got a zillion miles of chops.
I mean, and there's so many out. I just didn't want to do something like that.
Yeah.
I wanted to do something where somebody who knows nothing about music could listen to it and be invited to listen to it, not have to think, oh, this is jazz. Because I didn't want it to be jazz.
Oh, it's too complicated for me.
This is a rock tune. Or no. This is just a moment in time that was caught with my friends that I love, and that's what I want people to feel.
And do you like it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't. It's not even. Does anyone else like it?
Yeah.
It's just I hope that they feel the love we have for each other.
Right.
And the enjoyment that we had doing it, because there was moments where we were just cracking up. I mean, just laughing and having a good time, and then moments where we were like, "Wow, that was amazing! Wow, where did that come from? That was much bigger than us." Just like moments where you just, And so I picked songs like the Beach Boys' "You Still Believe in Me" that Jeff and I did as a duet, just double bass and soprano sax.
Wow.
Or Besame Mucho, where I hold a shaker in my hand and play the bass line, and bassoon plays the melody, and we take solos together.
Yeah.
Or the Riverman song, or Baby Plays Around, that I heard Elvis Costello and Bill Frisell do, and that's just a beautiful song, but doing it a different way. So, and then one of my own tunes, I wrote a song, Julie, for my wife, that John Burr on piano and I did together. And I just started picking songs because Cookie was telling me that, her clientele, they want to hear melodies that they recognize, but done in different ways. Reinterpreted in a new light. So getting back to the Riverman thing, when Jenna said, the Nick Drake one, right? And Cookie went, no. And then Jenna went, oh, no. And she got really freaked out. I said, hey, it's okay. No worries. We'll figure it out. And then the first thing we tracked that day was Riverman. And Cookie, who's an amazing producer and has been doing this forever, did the whole psychology thing, because she knew if we didn't do that first, probably Jenna would have had that on her mind the whole day. It's coming. But because we did it first, she just put the headphones on and listened and watched the lyrics, and she spent like 15 minutes just over and over again repeating the song in her head. And then we tried a take where John R. played more just regular chords, and it was beautiful, but not necessarily the energy that I was hoping to get to. It was a little more, just a couple of things here and there, and it was just kind of stagnant. Because since the bass line is so one thing, you know. I wanted to have a feeling of everything else floating and just moving. So Cookie had this idea of John pushing the sustain pedal down and sticking his hands in the piano and just plucking the strings with his hands all over. And he started doing it, and she went, stop, ran downstairs, press record, go.
Wow.
And that was it. And it was one take.
Well, let me ask this. If you're a piano player, the keyboard is the world where you are most familiar. If you reach into the innards of the piano,
Right.
is there anything in there that can give you points of reference where
No.
you know what notes you're playing?
No.
So he's just reaching in there and he's playing.
He just started playing, and just the sound. But what happens when you hold the sustain pedal on a piano and you play a note, the overtones vibrate in all the other parts of the piano.
Yeah.
Because all the sympathetic overtones will start to vibrate.
Right.
And as he was doing that and we started playing, my bass line was reverberating through the strings of the piano. And the percussion that Brain was doing with a little tom here, a snare drum, but he had a little thumb piano, a kalimba that he turned upside down. He was playing with mallets. So he had more of the kind of the hollow wood sound. And a little, you know, like instead of a snare, he put a little small tambourine on a floor tom, and dunk, dunk, you know, and these little sounds all started reverberating through the piano strings of this 1885 Steinway grand piano. That
Wow.
she has. It only has 84 keys, not 88, because it didn't have 88 keys in it. And then Jenna started singing. Right, I know. Jenna started singing, and her voice was causing the piano to play the harmonies
Right.
with the overtones. And we just went, and then when it was done, we went downstairs and listened to it. And when Jeff Coffin and I were doing takes, we finished a take, and Jeff would put his hands up again, arms akimbo in the air to the universe, you know, and waist swaying back and forth. You know, it was just like this beautiful things that we were just communicating to each other. It was like we hadn't played together in probably 14 years, and it was just like we're back.
Yeah,
just like where
you
we
just
ended.
started
Just
the
boom, boom.
conversation
Yeah, just
again.
kept the conversation. Yeah, it was beautiful. And so I had my arms up in the air in the control room going, oh.
Have
it
you
came out
named
so
the album?
beautiful. Not yet.
All right.
I don't. Yeah,
We got you before you even named the album.
Didn't name it, and then I have to name the improvisations. So
Yeah.
I have to listen to them and
Figure out what they call
I think-
themselves.
Yeah, one of them was the first one. You know, we finished and Jeff goes, "That's the one."
Yeah.
So that might be called "That's the One." You know, just and they wanted. We talked and stuff, and what we did too is she recorded us talking about arrangements. How you want to approach this, because she's going to put that on the album. We also, Jeff and I, signed the charts of what we did.
Nice.
And that'll be on there. But
Yeah.
a lot of her clients want to hear how we discussed, how do you want to approach this?
Yeah.
What do you want to do? And then, boom, we do it. And I think people that are into music or into art of any kind, the process is really important. It's not just, okay, we show up, boom, we're done. Or the process wasn't months of preparation where we rehearsed and rehearsed and
Right.
rehearsed.
Yeah.
You know, Cookie doesn't want that either. She says a lot of the magic is when you really don't know what you're going to do next and you hope it's going to work.
Yeah.
And everybody feels that. And so Riverman was one of those things where she says, oh man, people are going to hear this. And especially if they're film fans, but even if not, it's so I felt it was really unique, and it came out way better. It was so different than the original, which is just beautiful, but it has its own thing, and that's all I wanted, you know. And there was some times where I didn't think it worked well, but then I listened back and I go, I'm not sure. And she goes, don't worry about it.
Let the
Yeah.
universe have it.
Like, you're right. Okay. I don't feel I did something as well as I wanted to. You know, you play upright bass for 8 hours, so your hands start to get a little tired.
Yeah.
You know, and you're like, I can't do certain things now that I could do earlier in the day. And that was the deal, right? She says, you're going to have moments where you're going to go, I didn't like that. And she goes, you're not allowed to say that, because what you perceive as good is not what my clients perceive
Right.
as good. And you can't be in your musician's brain. You have to be in another space.
Sure.
You know, so I had to have her there, which she was just great. But by doing that, making that the first song we recorded that day, set the pace for the entire, because that's the first time Brain and I played together. You know, John R. and I played together for years.
Yeah.
And Jen and I had played together, but Brain and I hadn't. I was familiar with his playing from Missile Harmony, the band Missile Harmony, and of course Limbo Maniacs. And,
Yeah.
you know, he was in Primus. He was original drummer in Primus and then came back.
Yeah.
And just all the stuff, Tom Waits.
I haven't heard the word Limbo Maniacs in years.
Right, the Mofessionals.
Man,
Remember?
did I love the Limbo Maniacs.
We were talking about all those bands, because Jen and I were driving back through San Francisco, and San Francisco skyline looks completely different now. And
Yeah.
Oakland looks completely different. It's like, you can see what's happening with how cities are changing via economics and rentals, and it's kind of sad in a way. A lot of things are just going by the wayside that the clubs we used to play at, or just the situations, or just the hangs that we used to have in different places, and those places don't even exist. But yeah, we talked about a lot of that's just talking about bands that we used to see and check out. But
I once watched Brain play, and I didn't have pants on. That's a story for another time. Anyway,
right.
You talked about how you guys captured those moments, those magic moments, and talked about it ahead of time. Those are some of my favorite moments from a lot of different shows that do that kind of a formula, like Live from Daryl's House.
Yeah.
They'll do that, you know, and Rob Thomas will say, I want to do Kisses on my list, but can we do it in a minor key? Because I want to make it dark. And Daryl's like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
And then they capture these magic moments, or someone says, let's do the funky version of, and then they go and they do it. They all come out and they're like, woo!
Because they're all listening to each other, and they're all like just allowing,
the communication to happen.
I think when you have mutual respect for everybody, and you really just dig how everybody plays, and you want to hear them, and they want to hear you, then you can, what did Jen and I were talking, you can trust the music to let you know what it wants.
Right.
You can trust the moment to let you know it's okay, be there. And in that moment, you can just be. You don't have to be somebody else. Because I think most of my life I wanted to be everyone's bass player, because you want to be.
That's sort of what the bass player role is.
Yeah, you kind of want to just be ready.
Think?
I want to be ready for every gig, and as much as I can. I can't do everything. But,
and then you want to be the guy that everybody goes, hey, that was great. Let's call him back.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete Turner.
And if you like the show,
do us a favor.
Yeah, share it.
That's the biggest thing, honestly.
All your social media outlets, all your friends, let them know the ones that you like.
Yeah. We make this show for you guys. If you think it's great, say so. Say so by sharing it. Say so by putting a comment in after the show.
Also, if you go to iTunes or Stitcher or wherever you listen to podcasts, give us a rating. Give us a review. If you think the show is great, please give us 5 stars and say so. And if you think the show really sucks, please give us 5 stars and say so.
Because, heck, we're listening.
That's right.
You can't be more approachable than us. We want to make the show better. If there's something that we're missing, let us know. That really is how you help us.
That's right. Tell us all about it. Thanks for listening.
And now back to the show.
Exactly. So you think, especially when you're young and you're trying to start out, you want to work, you want to get your name out there, you want to work with better people.
You have a definition of success that is just to proceed and progress. And
you have to have a bar of excellence that you're trying to get to, and of course that bar always moves.
Yeah,
but it should. But you at least have to have an idea by the people that you go see and that you admire.
Right.
Oh man, that guy. I can name bass players like Benny Rietveld or Kayakard or Mark Van Bakenigen or Dave Belove, just cats that I would, as a younger player, go and check out, and then there's hundreds and hundreds of more, Keno Kolulu, he played at Ashkenaz a lot with African High Life Band, and I can't think of the name right now. I see him play, man, and just play quarter notes and sing, and I'd be like, oh, what is that? That's like center of the earth. And then he'd do some 8th note upbeat thing, and I'd be like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And
it would catch you in the bottom of your back.
You'd just be like, oh, that was the most brilliant thing. So, and unfortunately, that when I grew up here, there was a lot of that going on, and you could see that. And so you just kind of want to do that. But as time goes on, you still have to be who you are. You still have to kind of start to mold that into something different. And I feel like this album shows a moment in time of me trying to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily.
And you waited until you came to a place where your understanding of the way that people love you and your acceptance of the way that you could produce things and allow people to love it the way they were going to love it, it was just the right time.
Yeah, well, there was 2 weeks ago where I was going to can the whole thing.
Wow.
Yeah. I had a whole panic attack. My wife was with her mom. Her mom had a fall about 3 weeks ago, and Julie had to go down and be with her mom for a while, which was right in the middle of all this preparation, and I called her up one morning and I said, you know what, I'm just going to pay everybody for their time that I told them I'd pay them for, and not show up and just, it's going to, I'm crazy doing this. This is really nuts, right? I shouldn't, no one's going to, this is just nuts. I'm spending all this, I'm going to put this thing out there, and I don't know even what it's going to be like, and this can't, no, I'm just going to get out of it, and Julie was like, no. You're doing this album.
That's crazy talk.
You're doing this is crazy. No, it's going to be fantastic.
Right.
Cookie's got your back. Everybody that's on it, Jeff, Paul, John, Jenna, Brain, they're all going to be right there with you.
Yeah.
And she kind of talked me down, and I went, yeah, you're right. If I were to can it right now, then the next question would be, what would have happened?
Right.
Yep. For the rest of your life.
Exactly. What would have happened if I would have, and that's a scarier question than falling on my face trying.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what's the worst that can happen? It's just music.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
like,
well, I'll tell you what the worst is that can happen is that music somehow is unearthed and discovered 400 years after you die.
Right, yeah.
And everybody goes, wow, how did we lose out on 400 years of enjoying this thing? And, it's the Vincent van Gogh syndrome. It was like, well, he didn't realize what he was doing while he was here, and now 400 years later, we're looking at his stuff going, wow, this is pretty amazing. So that's the worst that can happen.
Yeah, and the best that can happen is what happened.
Yeah.
Was we caught these beautiful moments, and now I want to do another one.
Right.
Now I'm like, I faced that.
And now we are looking at Derek Jones, solo artist.
Well, it wasn't solo per se, but you know what I mean. I thank you. I don't
It's
mean
your
to
record,
belittle
though.
that. It's my record, and it's what happened at that time. I didn't spend a lot of time arranging or writing it, but I just allowed things to happen, and it definitely has given me a confidence that maybe I didn't have. A different confidence, maybe just a different perception or a feeling of myself. Like when you get through something and you do it, it's done. And then, like Cookie said, why'd you wait so long?
Yeah.
And I said, well, if this is successful and it does well enough, we'll do another one.
Yeah.
But it just was good. I'm glad I didn't pull out and just, I think, there's maybe some things that aren't as strong as I hoped it would be, and other things that blew my mind. But that's my perception. And that doesn't matter. It does, but I want people to listen to it and make their own. Some people will like it, some people will be like, whatever. It's okay.
I'm so glad that you and Cookie had converging missions at this point, because your creativity has something to offer somebody that isn't just a flat out, like a pop tune, you know what that is. You know what that does to you. It makes you shake your shoulders a little bit. The complexity of your playing on a simple bass line, for instance, is going to hit somebody in a way that really could only have come alive in Cookie's hands, because she recognizes that she has a listenership that demands something that's unusual.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the Seth Godin find your tribe thing.
Find your tribe, yeah.
Find your village, find your tribe, and then find out what they want. Because if you find a group of people that like what you do, but then don't ask them what they want, and then don't give them what they tell you they'd really like to have,
Right.
then it's really your fault for when you say, oh, I wasn't successful in this project, even though I had everybody telling me, look, we want something like this. And so when Cookie explained to me, this is what my client base is looking for, then I said, well, let's do a record that they want. And let's do it in a way that they are wanting it to be done, and what they want to hear. So that's when I picked the songs that I picked, and they all just kind of came, like Prince's Kiss. Just like she kind of went, why don't we do that? And I went, okay, how are we going to do it with that's produced like crazy.
Yeah.
And then we ended up just doing it with upright bass, drums, and Jenna singing, and very sparse. And it became this really kind of wonderful thing. It just, when you listen to it, it's like, wow, you still hear, because we've all heard that song, it's part of our growing up. And you definitely don't want to mess with the perfectness of it, but it's such a wonderful song that I thought if we slow it down and do it more like a New Orleans swampy kind of thing, and that was Cookie's idea too. Just like, oh, let's just get really really slow with it and take our time. And it turned into a wonderful version of it that I hope,
I can't wait to hear that.
people dig, and
I want to push back a little bit
Sure.
because when you find your tribe, I appreciate your sense of not wanting to betray the desires of your audience. But some part of that audience is going to go, I want you to take me for a ride.
exactly.
And I don't necessarily know exactly what I want,
right.
but I want a fun ride. I want an
Right.
interesting ride. I want to take something somewhere where I didn't think it was going to go there, surprise me a little. And
Right.
so I think that in terms of wanting your audience to enjoy, what you're giving them and playing into an audience's sense of their desire, you're still going to surprise them. And
Yeah, you don't want to placate your audience. You don't
Yes.
want to, you don't want to just be like, oh, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? I'll give you anything you want.
Yeah.
No, it's not. Yeah, I agree with you totally. And that's what we were discussing. This is like having certain elements that are familiar, and then taking those things and taking
just
away
to allow
those.
everybody to go, he is speaking the same language, but he's speaking it in a way that we haven't heard yet.
Right. There was an album that Cookie did with an artist, guitar player, and she said he just did a bunch of different songs, like Beatles songs and things like that, and he sang and played guitar. And she said, in my mind, it wasn't really good. In fact, I wasn't sure I wanted to even put it out on my label because I thought, the performance is, it's okay, it's not great, and the tuning and the voice, the way he sang it. But she says, well, let me see what happens. And it became one of her best-selling albums.
Wow.
And she said, I learned a valuable lesson of what my clients are looking for. They're not looking for perfect. They're not looking for well-produced, big, they're looking for something that sounds like it's happening live right in front of them. Because
Yeah.
they have like thousands and thousands of dollars worth of home audio equipment. They have 7.1. So they want to have it sound like
They
they're
really
sitting next
want to
the
hear
person.
the experience.
They want to feel like this person's right here.
Well, that's the thing about you playing the two-note bass line is that it becomes an experience where you go into the trance, and now I'm hearing not just the two notes you're playing, I'm hearing your fingers. I'm hearing
You're hearing the
sliding
bass.
noises.
You're hearing all these things.
I'm
Yeah,
hearing the way that the bass is responding to you.
Right.
And just the subtleties that are so deep in there. I also want to make the statement because you talked about your spiritual journey and how your ability to make this record right now was reflective of your ability to accept the way that people feel about the love that you broadcast and the love that they give back to you. And I want to say that you have changed a little bit in the last couple of years, but you haven't changed at all.
Oh, thanks.
Not to me.
Yeah.
When we've known each other many, many years.
Yeah.
And to me, it's funny that you because we've talked about your spiritual journey and changes that have gone on in the way that you were, like you said, programmed.
Right.
And that's changed.
Right.
But the core of Derek Jones, not one bit. Not to me.
And I think music had I think what's changed is the way I see myself. And I think music was always the constant that was really showing me who I was. When I played, when I wasn't judging myself, when I could just play and have those moments of almost like you didn't feel like you were playing. We get to those places in our lives every once in a while. Wow, it happened on its own. I was just like watching it almost.
Right, yeah.
And those are the moments that I knew were true.
Yeah.
That was truth.
Yep.
That was me. That was me not trying to be anything.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand it, so I kept hoping they would happen again. And, those moments don't happen. You can't just – they happen in the time when the temperature or the group of people you're around or the situation. There's all these things that have to come and play and swirl around you. But what I think has changed for me, and I'm glad that people that have known me as long as they have don't see the subtlety of it, but don't necessarily see the drastic change that I see in myself, is how I look at myself, how I speak to myself, how I allow myself, how I hear those voices in my head that are programmed and accept them and go, it's okay. Like when I first started running, the voice in my head was, you're never going to do this.
Yeah.
And then as I was doing it, well, you did a mile, but we should just stop. And in fact, what are you doing? And I got really angry at that voice. because it never went away. You know, it's like, I just ran 3 miles and you're still, you know, over time.
Still bugging me.
Because I started couch to 5K. So it was like walk for a minute, run for 10 seconds. You know, it's like, it starts off really simple and then builds up. And then you have your first 10-minute run and you're like, oh my God,
I just ran for 10
how
minutes.
am I going to do that? Like the
Yeah.
morning of the run, I was getting up going, I am not going to run 10 minutes. You
Yeah.
know? And you do it, and that voice is going, yeah, but you're not going to do 15. You know, and so it kept going, and I was really wanting it to stop, of course, you know, and getting angry and going, shut up, you know, and leave me alone, you know. So,
Yeah.
and then I realized, no, that's resistance. That's part of our human condition. I mean, Stephen Pressfield talks about it at length in the War of Art, which is an amazing book, changed my life. Resistance is, if you knew you could do something, you probably wouldn't do it.
Okay.
As a human being, you would probably like, oh, I can do that, you know. But if you wanted to do something and then wasn't sure,
Yeah.
that's in a different energy, because
Right.
then you have to deal with the resistance of, you're never going to do that. Oh yeah, I am. You know, and it's that resistance that pushes us to kind of be better than we are, or get to a different place in ourselves.
If we respond to
And
it.
if we respond to it,
Yeah.
if we, and it's not something to necessarily get angry at, because it's part of our human condition.
Right.
Every one of us has dreams and aspirations that we want to do, and that voice goes, yeah, but you're not going to do that. You know, there's always, or how we talk to each other, you know, to ourselves, pardon me. And so I started running, and when that voice came up, yeah, you know, you're not going to do the next mile, I would say, well, maybe, but let's see what happens if I keep going.
Yeah.
And then it got soft. And then I did another mile. And then, yeah, but you're not going to do another. You know, you might be right, but let's keep going and see what happens. Just come with me.
Yeah.
That voice changed.
Yeah.
But it changed. It got quieter. But then it would come from a different angle. You know, because he says in his book, resistance is really smart. It'll let you alone for a while and then see another angle of weakness and try and hit you there.
It's like water.
But
It will find
yeah,
the crack.
It will find the crack. If you shore up one end, it'll look for the other. But at the same time, if you're loving it, instead of having conflict with it,
Yeah.
because it's either, you know, things are flowing or they're in conflict. But love goes through everything. Love is the water of both, right? So love flows out of us and through other people, whether you're in conflict or you're having smooth sailing and you're just going through, you know, everything's fine. And Jeff Coffin talked to me about this the other night. You know, so if someone's in conflict, the way they react to you is just they're dealing with the conflict. You can still love them. You can choose to love them, even though maybe it was weird or whatever. You have a choice of how to react to it. Once I realized I had a choice of how to react to this voice and how to react to myself.
To yourself,
to
yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
Because it's part of me. It's not like this, you know, it's not like this outside voice or demonic, whatever people want to call it. No, it's actually just part of me. There's always this fear.
Yes.
I mean, doing this record, getting up that one morning going, I'm crazy, I can't do this. And just totally being tired and kind of overwhelmed with what was going on and getting ready. And
I'm just
you
going to
know,
look at Pete because, you know, that's Derek's inner voice. I mean, you and I both heard how it sounded.
Yeah.
But to
Yeah.
you, Derek, it was like that was a perfectly reasonable thought. I
Yeah,
was just
it's
going
like
to
yeah.
take care of
I'm
everybody.
nuts.
That
Yeah.
I'm going to pay people to not have to
I
show
bothered
up.
them, so
yeah, I don't want to, you know, I don't want to
Yeah.
be a jerk about it. I'm just going to pay them for their time. Sorry, guys, it didn't work out.
Yeah.
Right.
And that would have been disastrous.
The thing that we keep running into is, one, you got to be in the workshop. You got to be putting in the work.
Right.
So that those magic moments, and I'm playing my bass, that they happen, because they don't happen when you don't have the bass in your hand, you know?
No.
Or when you don't have your running shoes on and you're scooting down the street, because beating that voice, you know, and fighting the resistance, you know, is that's where it happens. You've got to do the work.
The work gives you the freedom
Yeah.
to react. I mean, the work allows you, when the situation opens up and you have to be on your A game, the preparation that you have done to be there gives you the freedom to react when it's needed. You know, for music, it's listening first, for me anyway.
Yeah.
Listening. What is the person trying? What is the music trying to say? What is it? What is the moment? What is happening right now?
Right.
Stop. Don't say anything. Just listen. And then if you have something to say, know how to say it.
Yeah.
And sometimes I don't know how to say it, so I have to figure out And that's where sometimes the magic comes out, because I'm not really sure how this is going to sound when I play this note. I don't know. Oh my God, right? Yeah. And you're just like, should I even play? No, I've got to. I can't just sit here, Yeah. And then, but when you're in the practice room, or you're doing your work, those are the times. And this is another thing for me, man. Being in the practice room was 20 people with me.
Yeah.
All my heroes looking down on me with their arms folded,
right,
shaking
like
their
the
heads.
Jedi Council,
right? The Jedi
disapproving
Council, yes, disapproving. No, that's not good. No, that's not going to work. And I started realizing, wow, man, every time I'm never alone with my instrument,
yeah,
because I allowed this programming of like, well, how would so and so do it, and what would they think right now if they heard me do it like this? I'm in my room, my practice space, practicing, but I'm bringing that energy because that's the only way I was able to push myself to get better, maybe, or to inspire.
That's your standard.
I'm not going to suck, so I'm going to be really good. So I better practice harder. Mm-hmm. But then when I did a good job, I didn't enjoy it. I couldn't enjoy the fruits of my labor and go, wow, that was wonderful. No, it was like, what? No, but you did that one note wrong.
That one note.
So we're going to go back home and practice again. Yeah. And then my wife one day went, you don't enjoy anything you've done. You have not sit down and listened to any albums you've done, and actually said, that's a good job. So I had to dig deep and go, why? Why am I constantly negative? I'm really positive to everyone else. Like, I'm the first person to go, hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
That's so great. That really touched me, man. You're awesome. But then myself, I'm nothing. And why would anybody look at me? It's like, I'm going to go away now. I'm going to say, hey, you're great. And then I'm going to run away because you don't even need to know my name.
Well, I'll give you a practical example of what you're talking about, because not long ago, a while ago, a couple years ago, actually, now that I think about it, I just stumbled upon Kai Eckhart.
Right.
And I know he's one of the people who would have been staring down at you from the Jedi Council.
Oh, sure. Even when I was in his band.
Yeah. And, I mean,
he's in
amazing.
my mind. Let me preface that by saying I was in his band. We had a trio with 2 bass players and drums, and it was an amazing experience. And I love Kai. He's my brother. He's just one of my heroes. He would never, in fact, he was the one that constantly said to me, you have to find your own voice, Derek, because I was his clone. I wanted to be Kai Eckhart.
And who doesn't want to be Kai Eckhart, by the way?
Right. And I was at his house practicing his music, and we'd watch Ren and Stimpy's show, and then we'd watch Star Trek Next Generation, and that was every week, every other day. We'd be at his house, and we'd schedule our rehearsals around that, and we'd do gigs. But I was constantly trying to be his clone, and he was constantly saying, "No, man, you have your own voice." So but in my
but if
head,
there's a collective of disapproval,
in my
the
head,
people whose playing you admire,
exactly,
he's among them.
Just to be that, it was my head, not him at all.
Right.
Yeah.
So in your head, that exists.
Right.
And when I said, we're walking down First Street, and we just stumbled into the back of the Union Hotel. We heard some music, and it was amazing. Whatever we were hearing was ridiculous.
Right.
So we went, we got to go in there. So we went in there, and it was Pete Crosby, who said, dude, is that Kai Eckhart?
Yeah.
And he was in the back of the Union Hotel, and there was nobody back there.
Right.
It was an October evening. I guess they had booked an outdoor thing, planning for an Indian summer, and instead it was a little cool.
Yeah.
So people didn't show up like everyone thought they would, and we were treated to just a brilliant performance, and we're practically alone watching it.
Right. Yeah.
So, but as Kai would, he gave 100%.
Of course.
To 4 people.
Yep.
And when he took a break, we went over to say hello. Pete Crosby he said, man, we got to talk to Kai Eckhart. And I said, yeah, we sure do. So I walked up and I said, hey, Kai, you probably don't remember me, but I've met you a few times. I'm a good friend of Derek Jones. And he just let loose. When I said, I'm a good friend of Derek Jones, he went, oh, and he all practically started crying.
Yeah,
and he gave me a big
like
hug, and
right
he goes,
now.
how you doing? How you doing? And then we talked about you, of course, and we talked about how cold it was and where everybody in the universe was, because everyone was missing this.
Right.
But the way that he talks about you is something that would anybody heard would completely betray whatever was going on in your head about how he was looking down at you going, well, you played that wrong.
Right.
Because, he understands that you're on the journey of finding and developing and, your voice.
Right.
And he loves your voice.
Right.
And so there.
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Derek Jones?
That
That's what
was-
I have to say.
Yeah, that was the reality was that I wasn't paying attention to, right?
Sure.
Because I think we get it. It's almost like it's an addiction, man. It's like a chemical reaction in
Yeah.
our brains, man, where we dig or we want the turmoil. It can't be good, right?
Right.
Because good doesn't feel intense sometimes, And when you come down on yourself and get yourself all freaked out, there's a chemical reaction that ensues. You get nervous, you get free, and you either get angry or you get depressed, whatever.
Right.
But I don't know if this is true, but in some of the psychology books I've read about this, it's you actually get used to feeling that, and your body actually craves that
Yep.
kind of thing. So when you're going to meet somebody, or you're going to be in a certain situation, or you're going to be in a certain space, there's a tendency for that chemical to kick in, that feeling of, and I don't know how to explain it scientifically, but that was part of, wow, is everybody wrong? Certain musicians have said wonderful things about my playing over the years that I've really admired and listened to for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are they wrong?
Are they wrong?
Are they lying to me?
No.
In fact, a friend of mine said, we were talking about this, and he said, "You mean when I came out to hear you play the other night? I was playing with some friends of mine in Las Vegas. We were just doing a gig at an Italian restaurant, just having a blast, just playing tunes and having fun. Great players, it was great. Mm-hmm. And he came by, and we were talking about that. And we were talking about this topic.
Yeah.
He says, "So you're telling me that I went out, me and my wife, and went and see you play, and I took time out of my day to come and hear you, and then I told you how I just thought it was killing.
Yeah.
You don't really believe I was telling you the truth?"
Yeah.
And I went, "Well, part of me does."
Yeah.
And he kind of said, "F you, man,
Yeah.
right now,
Yeah.
because I don't go out of my way
Yeah.
to see anybody.
Right.
And I don't say stuff like that to anyone.
Yeah.
Right.
And you're telling me you don't believe me? Well, then that's your problem.
Your hang up.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm pissed. And F you, right?
Suddenly it's an insult.
And I went, yeah. It's just like when I was younger, playing gigs in the early 90s, and I was playing with my friend Mike Zober, great saxophone player here in town. And we were doing a gig, and when it was done, somebody came up and said, "Wow, man, I really like your playing, man. You're just a wonderful player." And I said, "Nah, man, I'm not. You got to listen to." And I named off like 10 bass players.
Yeah.
Those guys are great. I'm not really, but
That would have been a Derek Jones thing to do.
right? I'm nothing. And Mike Zober said, "Dude, what you just told that person is they're a liar,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and they don't know what they're talking about."
Right.
The actual perfect answer, the only answer to say is thank
Thank
you.
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember that, because you just told that person that they don't really know what they're talking about, and they took time out of their day to tell you how much you touched them,
Yeah.
and you just blew them off.
Right.
Yeah.
Not necessarily on purpose, because I was being
No, but that was the
humble.
emotion you left
Yes.
them
The
when
pride
you,
before a fall, humble.
Yeah.
You can't take pride in your work. Your work is not your own. It comes from above, and you never can take. And so whenever anybody ever said they liked me, I'd go, "Well, it's not me. It's
Yeah.
God. I can't have me be in the picture." So I learned to program myself to say, no, it's these people, and you check
Yeah.
these guys out.
Yeah.
And then I realized, wow, I told that person they were stupid.
didn't know what they were talking about.
I know what they were talking about, and that I didn't say thank you, and then from then on I went thank you, and that's all I said.
Yeah.
Or thank you. My name's Derek Jones. Nice to meet you. And man, so 47 years old. I'm still
Thanks,
learning.
Mike.
right. Thanks, Mike. A lot, man. And yeah, it just parallels my life now as I remember those things, and how life is too short to not enjoy
Yes.
what you've done. Mm-hmm. Life is too short. If my son sees me, I talked to a friend of mine about that. If we talk to our kids like we talk to ourselves,
Oh man,
our kids would be destroyed.
Yeah.
Right? They just wouldn't survive it.
that's a really profound statement. I
Yeah.
never really thought about that.
And I
like
said,
that.
when was the day?
And we wouldn't dare.
No, we wouldn't.
It wouldn't dawn on us to do that.
It would be horrible. And,
Yeah.
and then I asked, what day was it that we said it was okay?
Except for my kids, they're rotten.
Yeah, our kid, right. Kids can't get to us from time to time. But I asked, what day was it when we said it was okay?
Right.
Yeah.
To treat ourselves that badly.
Right.
To talk to ourselves in that kind of in that venomous type of tone where we're, that if I talk to my son like that right now, man, it would just be,
right.
I would be a horrible human being, but yet that's what I was doing.
It's okay for you, yeah.
Yeah, it's okay for me because I understand, I need that. And it was
Yeah.
like there's that addictive and then that programming of it becomes an automatic thing, right? Where before you can even stop it, it's already there. And so it's been a process of pointing out the automatic response and going, oh, I don't have to believe that anymore.
Right.
I can actually step away from it and go, the reality is this.
John, if we had our biggest purveyors of love from the show on here, obviously Derek is one of them. You are just full of love. But we took him, Jesse Manabusan, Carlos Reyes, and Rob Bell, and put them in the same room. Love might go critical.
Yeah.
Hey, we need
the walls
that right
would start
now,
sweating.
Yeah,
exactly.
right.
I was just thinking that, your spiritual awakening, I'm going to call it that because I don't think, I've been a non-believer for a good portion of my life, and then I was recently touched by our guest, the guy who I call my spiritual advisor, although he really just told me a few things that kind of changed my mind, which was, I came to him with my own long-seated crisis of faith, and he said this, that feeling when you know what is good, when you know what is right? And I said, yeah. And he said, that's God to me, and you can call it that, or you can don't call it that, but you should let it be. And I went, okay, I will.
It took John his whole life
from
to get there.
all of the other things, and I really came at him with my laundry list of, well, how can all of this injustice and my people having been converted at the sword point and all these things? And he said, yeah, man, you're absolutely right. But then he just said, you know what, just love people.
Yeah.
That's all.
Well, I think
that I can not betray Rob Bell and not have to prescribe someone's belief system upon my understanding that I love Derek Jones and I know Derek Jones loves me and I love Pete and Pete loves everybody, and we're in this together in a way that we should all figure out what we all need from ourselves so that we can be kind to ourselves in the way that we are kind to others.
Well, and all religions speak of that, putting others before yourself.
It's like when you're on a plane and the mask comes down and they tell you got to put your mask on first.
Yes.
You're going to help your kid. You're going to do all those things. Just very quickly, put your own mask on first. Yeah. So here's to putting your mask on. I'm glad that in your life your mask is on, because right now where you are, in your playing, in your ability to communicate, in your ability to convey pleasure with your instrument, in your ability to convey emotion with your instrument, I would say that I could probably collect up the guys who have known you as long as I have, and I don't think you're anywhere that any of us thought you wouldn't be. I think you're right where you were destined to be, and you were right where your own humanity was going to take you and take us. And I'm happy that your realization of it is matched up with your path.
Yeah, thank you.
So, closing thoughts. I wish we had a name of the album to plug, but we're here plugging Derek Jones's first solo album.
Well, it will be on bluecoastrecords.com, and so you can go to that website, and all the artists that Cookie has on that label are there.
Yeah.
You can listen to all the albums, and it's anything from Jenna Mamina to Paul Hansen has a solo bassoon record. Kayakart has a solo bass record on there.
Yeah.
Some recordings. There's probably 50. Fiona Joy.
Lots of amazing artists on the catalog.
It's just a really wonderful roster of artists. And again, bluecoastrecords.com, and she's adding more stuff. And it's a really wonderful resource for independent artists that are putting out great stuff, and it's very different stuff. There's no genre-based marketing. It's just, listen to this album.
It is what it is.
This happened here this day. Yeah. This happened this time, and this is a group that sounds like this, and this is it's very exciting, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, we love what you're doing, Cookie Marenko, and we love what you're doing, Derek Jones.
Thanks, brothers.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right.